Hi, my name is Miss Cohut and I teach 3rd grade at Crestwood. Today I will be reading you Miss Alainus, A Vocabulary Disaster by Deborah Fraser. None of this would have happened if it wasn't for Forrest. Forrest is not a thicket of trees. Forrest is a boy, a sick boy. A boy sneezing and coughing all over my desk and pencils. I caught Forrest cold and had to stay home from school on Tuesday. Tuesday is Vocabulary Day at Webster School. Follow my advice. Never get sick on Vocabulary Day. On Tuesday afternoon, I called my best friend Star, who is not a luminous, celestial object seen as a point of light in the sky, but a very smart girl who listens perfectly on Vocabulary Day. She was late for baseball practice, so she spelled the first 14 vocabulary words as fast as she could. I had to scribble them quickly because her mom was calling her to the car. The last one's Miss Alainus, Star yelled. I gotta go. I hope you feel better tomorrow, Sage. And she hung up the phone with a crash. Vocabulary words. Number 1, dinosaur. 2, snake. 3, museum. 4, reptile. 5, constrictor. 6, herpetologist. 7, fossil. 8, carnivore. 9, herbivore. 10, nest. 11, species. 12, theory. 13, hypothesis. 14, category. 15, Miss Alainus. I didn't feel much better on Wednesday, so my mom called Mrs. Page, who is not a single-sided printed sheet of paper usually found bound in a book. She's my teacher, and actually, Mrs. Page is a good name for her because she reads to us every day. My mom told her yes, I had my math problems and vocabulary words, and yes, I would get better soon. Every week, Mrs. Page gives us a list of words with a theme, like a story writing or musical performance, or electricity. We're supposed to look up each word in the dictionary, but sometimes I already know the words, so I try to make the definitions sound like I looked them up. Tree, a large leafy plant with a tall wooden trunk that pushes roots into the ground and branches into the sky. Automobile, a vehicle used to transport humans, usually consisting of 4 wheels, a steering wheel, and a radio. I thought I was pretty good at definitions until this week. My mom says, pride goeth before a fall. Pride, an unduly high opinion of oneself. Goeth, Old English for to go. Fall, what happened on Monday, vocabulary test day. By Thursday afternoon, my head felt like it was stuffed with cotton and my throat felt swollen shut. I finished defining my vocabulary words while propped up in bed with a box of tissues on one side and a gigantic red dictionary on the other. It's hard to look up words in a huge book while you're in bed blowing your nose. So I made my own dictionary language for as many of them as I could. 13, hypothesis. What you guess will happen in your science experiment. 14, category. A bunch of things that are alike. 15, Miss Alainus. The last word seemed a little odd to me because I couldn't figure out what she had to do with snakes or categories or theories. Mrs. Page rarely gives us people's names on our vocabulary lists, but we have had a few that turned into words, like Louis Pasteur for pasteurization and George Washington for Washington, D.C. So I decided she must have been included for some reason. You should know that for years I had wondered who Miss Alainus was. When I was little, I figured out that she had something to do with the kitchen because the Miss Alainus drawer held the spoons too big to fit anywhere else, the sharp corn holders shaped like tiny cobs, and the spaghetti spork that weird cross between a spoon and a fork that perfectly lifts slippery spaghetti out of the bowl. I thought maybe she was an ancestor, an ancient relative long dead who left us all these odd things in the drawer. Then, just last year, my mom and I were at the grocery store, and it fell into place. We were in one of those very big hurries when she said, "You go get some of the long Italian bread and 2 sticks of butter. I'll get miscellaneous things and meet you here at the cash register." I found the bread and butter, and my mom came back with spaghetti sauce, a can of Parmesan cheese, a can of corn, and a big box of spaghetti with a beautiful woman on the front. She was drawn so that her hair tumbled perfectly across the box and ended in a little plastic window, making the spaghetti look just like the ends of the strands of hair. There she was, Miss Alainus. So, propped up on the pillows in my bed, with a tissue in one hand and a pencil in the other, I wrote, number 15, Miss Alainus, the woman on green spaghetti boxes whose hair is the color of uncooked pasta and turns into spaghetti at the ends. And then I fell asleep. I finally got better over the weekend and felt great on Monday. I turned in my homework to Mrs. Page and sat down on my desk, glad to be back at school with my friends. I was even glad to see Forrest at our morning circle meeting. First, I want to remind you of the 10th annual vocabulary parade on Friday, said Mrs. Page. I hope you are all working on your word costumes. Second, please remember to bring your bus money and permission slips for our science museum field trip tomorrow. And third, instead of our usual Monday test, we are going to have a vocabulary bee today. Everyone line up here by the chalkboard, and I'll choose a word from our list. After I pronounce the word, please spell and define it. If you are correct, go to the end of the line. If you miss the word, please sit down at your desk and look it up in the dictionary. Write the word 5 times and define it once. Star was first with museum, M-U-S-E-U-M, a building for exhibiting objects about art or history or science, she said, and went to the back of the line. Cliff, not a high, steep face of rock, but one very tall boy, answered to the word dinosaur, D-I-N-O-S-A-U-R, a prehistoric extinct reptile often huge, and he went to the back of the line. I was 10, and when Mrs. Page called out my word, I spelled capital M-I-S-S, capital A-L-A-I-N-E-U-S, and added, the woman on green spaghetti boxes whose hair is the color of uncooked pasta and turns into spaghetti at the ends. There was a moment of silence in the room. I smiled at Mrs. Page. She waited to see if I could add anything else. And when I didn't, she grinned. Not smiled, grinned, to draw back the lips and bare the teeth, as in a very wide smile. And the entire class burst into one huge giggling, laughing, falling down mass of kids. Forrest was doubled over. Star, my best friend, was laughing so hard, tears came to her eyes. By now, even Mrs. Page was laughing. Pride goeth before a fall. I was sage. One who shows wisdom, experience, judgment. Why are they laughing? Wise girl with words, my dad always called me. What had I said? I was beginning